Have you ever been scrolling on your phone, then you look up and you have absolutely no idea what you just looked at? Or maybe you've walked into a room and completely forgotten why you went in there in the first place. Well, that feeling, that's what we're calling the digital fog. And today, we're going to get into what's really going on, why it's happening, and what it's doing to our brains. This quote from Nicholas Carr really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling that so many of us have, that we've lost the ability to just sit down and focus deeply on something. It feels like instead of diving deep into a good book or a complex idea, we're just jet skiing across the top of everything, bouncing from one thing to the next. It's a great metaphor for a very real problem. All right, so you've probably heard the joke about the goldfish having a super short attention span, right? The classic line is that they can only hold a thought for about 9 seconds. Just keep that number in your head for a second. 9 seconds. Now, get ready for this. Recent studies are showing that the average human attention span has now dropped to just 8 seconds. Yeah, you heard me right. We are now officially less focused than a goldfish. And this isn't just a feeling we have. It's a measurable decline in our ability to pay attention. So what does this digital fog actually feel like in our day-to-day lives? Because it's way more than just being a little distracted. It comes with some real, concrete symptoms that you've probably experienced yourself. Let this number sink in for a minute. 58. That's the average number of times we pick up and check our phones every single day. And yeah, you might tell yourself it's just for a second, but each one of those little checks is an interruption, a little crack in our focus that adds up. And all those interruptions, they take a serious toll. We're not just talking about losing a few minutes of work. You ever get to the end of a long day of screen time and just feel completely drained, like your brain is just tired? That's cognitive fatigue. Or maybe you're having trouble remembering little things. That can be a side effect too. It even messes with our sleep. It all feeds into this cycle that just leaves us feeling totally overwhelmed. You know, it's really easy to blame ourselves for all this, to think we just have bad self-control. But what if I told you that your distraction isn't an accident? What if it's actually a business model? This is where we need to talk about the attention economy. So here's the basic idea. In a world that is just flooded with information, the single most valuable, scarcest resource out there is your attention. And companies, think TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, they are in a constant, all-out war to capture every possible second of your focus. Because, well, that's how they make their money. And you know what's crazy? An economist named Herbert A. Simon basically predicted this all the way back in 1971. He said that the more information we have, the less attention we have to give. And today, we are practically drowning in information, which has created this massive poverty of attention. Okay, so we know these companies want our attention, but why are their apps and platforms so unbelievably good at getting it? Why is it so hard to just put the phone down, even when we really want to? Well, the answer is some pretty powerful psychology. This is the secret sauce. It's the exact same principle that makes slot machines in Vegas so addictive. See, you don't win every time you pull the lever, but you might win on the next one. It's that maybe, that unpredictability that keeps you glued to the machine. And it's the same thing with your social media feed. The very next scroll could be that hilarious video, that amazing photo, that piece of gossip. That's what keeps your brain hooked and coming back for just one more scroll. As Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google, puts it, we all have a slot machine in our pocket. Every single time you pull down to refresh your feed, you're pulling that lever, waiting to see what little reward pops up. And this is absolutely not an accident. It's by design. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to this classic saying. In this attention economy, your focus isn't just something you give away freely. It is the product that is being packaged up and sold to advertisers. All right, let's tackle one of the biggest myths of our digital age, the idea of multitasking. We all like to think we're great at it, right? Answering emails while we're in a meeting, texting while watching a movie. But the science tells a very, very different story. Here's what's really going on. Our brains are not designed to do two complex things at once. It's just not how they're wired. So what we call multitasking is really just our brain doing something called task switching. It's jumping back and forth between tasks really, really fast. It feels like we're doing them at the same time, but we're not. And every single time your brain makes that switch, it comes with a cost. Scientists call it attention residue. You know that feeling when you quickly check an email and then you try to get back to the report you were writing? Well, a part of your brain is actually still thinking about that email. You're not giving the new task your full undivided attention. And that residue adds up in a big way. Constantly switching between tasks all day long can slash your overall productivity by as much as 40%. Think about that. That's almost half of your effectiveness just gone, all because we're trying to do too much at once. And if you think that quick check of your phone is harmless, think again. Research has shown it can take on average over 20 minutes, 23 minutes to be exact, to get back into that state of deep focus after just one little interruption. If you have a few of those an hour, you never even get a chance to get into a real state of flow. Okay, so we've laid out the problem, and honestly, it can feel a little grim. But here's the good news. It is not a hopeless situation. There are real practical things we can do to fight back against the fog and start reclaiming our minds. I like to think of it as digital hygiene, kind of like brushing your teeth, but for your brain. It comes down to 3 basic steps. First, triage your notifications. Be ruthless. Turn off everything that isn't absolutely essential. Second, batch your tasks. So instead of checking email all day, do it at specific times. And third, actually schedule deep focus time into your calendar. Block it out and protect that time like it's your most important meeting of the day. And here are a few other tools you can try. There's the 20-20-20 rule to help with eye strain. Every 20 minutes, you look at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. You could try an app like Forest, which makes a game out of staying off your phone. Maybe create a screen-free zone in your house, like a comfy chair where phones aren't allowed. And of course, practices like mindfulness can literally train your brain to be better at focusing. So at the end of the day, it really all boils down to this. Your attention is your most valuable currency. It's a limited resource you can never get back. So the next time you find yourself mindlessly scrolling, just take a second and ask yourself this question. Who are you making rich?